Don't you know that you don't know? Former US Secretary of State Donald Rumsfeld once famously said this: "As we know, there are known knowns. There are things we know we know. We also know there are known unknowns. That is to say, we know there are some things we do not know. But there are also unknown unknowns, the ones we don't know. It's the latter category that tends to be the difficult ones." As an approach to responding to uncertainty, this concise framework has a lot to commend it. Let's work through it and see what we can discover. Known knowns are the foundations for sound decision making. These can be personal, interpersonal, and procedural. On a personal level, we know how we are likely to respond in and to certain situations. On an interpersonal level, we know who we need to speak to if we want to progress an issue, who to avoid, and how to approach them to build trust and rapport. And on a procedural level, we know how certain processes will work, providing we input the right volume of resource or information at the right time. In our previous podcasts, we've employed a couple of exercises to help us become as clear and certain as possible about our known knowns and to expose the false friends of patterns of behaviour that no longer give us what they used to deliver. Known knowns are issues we approach with confidence and on the basis of our experience. So what about known unknowns? Known unknowns can include new initiatives, life and career transitions, and decisions we have to make on the basis of incomplete information. Known unknowns tend to follow a pattern or a cycle. We may face them with a certain nervous anticipation, and we can usually put in place some kind of contingency to respond to them. Much of my professional work involves helping clients navigate known unknowns to demystify them, make them slightly less scary, and to leverage whatever expertise and resources are available to respond to them as they unfold. But what about unknown unknowns? What makes these so uncomfortable is that we aren't sure how far our usual approaches to dealing with unknowns will be successful in addressing them. To give an example, one of my clients recently compared the COVID-19 pandemic to waking up in a virtual world. The world may look oh so familiar, but somehow it seems to be working to different rules. Epidemics tend to follow a pattern. We know they will peak and die off, they can be managed within certain timescales, and there's an end point to which we can look forward. But COVID-19 is unique. You can't get away from it because it's global, you can't eradicate it because there's no vaccine, and you can't predict what will happen to it because we don't know if it will mutate. In response, we've started to adapt our lifestyles, working practices and economic activity, but what we don't know is whether these adaptations will be temporary, before we return to what we used to do, permanent, as these new arrangements become normalised, or provisional, because there's further change to respond to in the future. So what life hack can help us respond to an unknown unknown? Well, if we face known knowns with confidence and experience, and known unknowns with nervous anticipation and contingencies, we can face unknown unknowns with courage and experimentation. Courage means we accept and embrace the world for what it is, and not try to pretend it's something else. Courage means we may need to let go of some old ways of thinking and develop new ones. And courage means that if we can't rely on someone to give us a ready-made solution to a challenge, we will find a solution by other means. And one of those other means is by experimentation. Through experimentation, we prod the world of uncertainty to see how it responds. Through experimentation, we accept that, in all likelihood, we won't get the whole solution we want in one go, but that the very act of experimenting will give us something more, something useful to work with that will be of value. Tune in next week and I'll give you some practical application for these principles. Until next time.